Hey, it's Roger Holloway with my lifelong friend, Dr. Tom Benjamin from Palm Desert, California. Got that state right. Tom, I'm loving doing this legacy series with you. We left off on the last one talking about education, how important you feel it is. And I want you to tell us, first of all, tell us where you got your degrees from. Your earned doctorate was from?
Yeah, it was from CTS, Christian Theological Seminary in Indianapolis, a graduate school for theological education, yes.
Now, you mentioned the MDiv. That's the Masters of Divinity.
That's correct.
You get that, then you got your doctorate, but you've helped reproduce yourself into many sons and daughters over the years. Tell us about education and how that spawned into reproduction of their intellectual lives.
Yeah, I appreciate that question only because I think that our whole mission as ministers is not so much to have our name on the marquee, but to actually put into other people what God has put into us. And so this is how I think that maybe if there's anything in my legacy that's really worth talking about, it's really this, because I have been blessed, if you will, to see over 50 pastors and ministers who I have helped personally and overseen through their theological education, with 40 of them probably getting MDiv degrees and 10 of them earning doctorate degrees. Wow. Now, some people would say, well, that doesn't make you a pastor. And I am 100% sure that they are right. But I think it makes you a better pastor in the long run, because if we remember our other conversation, the whole issue of critical thinking is important. But I think the other part of that is not only the accountability and responsibility issue, but it's also, I think, a part of the King model. We talked about Martin Luther King. It's that King model. It's being educated to liberate. Education for liberation. And that's the reason that we do this. We're not doing it just to have degrees on the wall, but we want to be as sharp, as clear, as clean, as concise in our ability to minister to the whole community. And particularly when you get into the justice issues, it becomes very clear that justice and Jesus go together. But
let me ask you a question. You mentioned liberation. I want to get some clarity on that, because we know that Jesus is the one that set us free as we walk with him. Yeah. But liberation, in the context you used, it means what exactly?
Well, it means the same thing. It means that we are free. We are set free to free others. This is the reproduction process. So instead of my name just being on the marquee and Bishop Benjamin or Dr. Benjamin, pastored for 50 years or whatever it is, that is not really as important as the fact that there are 50 ministers that are out across the country in chaplaincy, in pastorates, in education, who are doing kingdom work. That's what I think is important. And I think that, people sometimes play light of the educational process, particularly if you haven't been in it. But I give kudos to those who have gotten their degrees, because it takes work. It's hard work. Going to school is hard work, and accomplishing the degree level is hard work. So that's kind of where I think. And let me just say this too, Roger. An educated clergy produces an elevated community. This is the only profession that I know of that's really a profession where you have the hearts and souls of men and women in your hands, and you don't have to be formally trained. So you can come right out of the cornfield and just start preaching and start a church. But every other discipline has discipline in it. If you're going to be a doctor, you can't just be a doctor without the training. You can't be a lawyer without the training. You can't be even a good business person. I mean, in the long run, what's respected is the training, So I'm saying that to those who might be listening, do not miss the opportunity to build not your CV, but to build your life around excellence. And excellence, you have to pay a price. Part of it, I think, in an unregulated industry called ministry, is that we need more regulation, because we would be a much better force in the community. I don't want to be able, I want to be in a position to talk to people. If I were sitting in the congregation, I wouldn't want the person up there talking to me who has not even made the same sacrifices that I've made. I don't, so I think that this is really part of the weakness of the church. The prosperity gospel, for instance, the prosperity gospel is a product, I think, of a lack of training and a lack of critical thinking.
What do you call the prosperity? Because I believe in prosperity.
I think what I call the prosperity thinking, prosperity gospel, is that you first of all are I-centered, me centered, and then second of all, it's about money and things, and then it's all about you having the power to speak simply, and it's not Christ centered, it's me centered, and it's about money and possessions and materialism. Whereas the Bible talks about prosperity not from that standpoint. Really, it talks about soul prosperity. And
again, he obviously kind of equates it from the way I read the Bible from, I wish that above all things that you prosper.
That's right.
And be in health. So there you've got health and wealth as your soul
prospers.
Right. But not just your soul prospering.
Yeah, but you can't do it without you can't get prosperity that we're talking about, holistic prosperity, without soul prosperity.
Of course. There's no doubt about that.
But that's not what's necessarily taught in the prosperity gospel. But here's the point. The point that I want to make is that we have crippled the church with that, and I think that a lot of that comes again from a lack of theological training. You seldom will find a person who is really theologically trained who will fall into that pit of what I call prosperity gospel. And what I mean also by that is that I guess it's best understood how I presented the gospel in terms of, how can I say this? Heaven on earth. You remember, heaven on earth was my flag. Now that was interpreted by a lot of people as the prosperity gospel based on money and things, but that was not what I was getting at all. It was thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And it's really about modeling what's going on in heaven. So everything that heaven has,
right? No sickness, no tears.
That's right.
Plenty of everything you need, which is Jesus. It begins with him. But so I know I'm sounding a little contrary here, because I believe that we are to do well. You had many decades of doing well in ministry, and I know you took heat for it as well.
Yeah.
But yet the core center of your message, again, is what?
The core center of my message is, thy kingdom come,
right.
Thy will be done. Amen. On earth as it is in heaven.
Right.
Know what heaven is about.
Sure.
It's about justice and peace, and about love, and about walking in a fearlessness, a boldness that comes from knowing that God will never desert you. My grandmother said Jesus never fails. And right. You are truly prosperous when you walk in power, not in it. Look, the most prosperous people in the world are the lovers, the givers, not the takers, the givers. Yeah. Prosperity gospel tends to emphasize the taking more than the giving.
Well, you can't give nothing you ain't got. So
yeah, well, the measure
you got to get it
give,
to be able to give it. So again, it's like
the measure you give is the measure you receive.
Right.
Not the measure you receive is the measure you give.
It needs to be focused on that. Yeah. My good friend Tom Benjamin always used to say, "I'm blessed to what?"
What?
My friend Tom Benjamin always said, "I'm blessed to."
Oh, to be a blessing.
Right. So you got to be blessed in order to have it flow through you. So anyway.
Oh, but hey, by the way, Roger, I wrote that song, and when I wrote that song, it's the only song I've ever written. Blessed to be a blessing, you know.
Let's hear it.
Saved to do some saving. Saved to do some saving. Love to do some loving.
I want to hear
the world to know what a blessing it is to be blessed. Guess where that happened, though? Guess where the revelation of that song came? Sitting in a seminary classroom. It's
okay.
Crazy. Yeah.
I wish you would sing it because I know you can sing.
No, I can't sing, but we're not called to be professional singers, but we should sing anyway.
Sure.
I've been blessed to be a blessing. I've been saved to do some saving. I've been loved to do some loving. But I want the world to know what a blessing it is to be blessed.
See, you can sing.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
beautiful.
Thank you.
Well, hey, let's close out with this thought. You mentioned one of the requirements for ordination after examination of calling. Talk about that and talk about the degree and then the preparation and all the others in there.
Well, in our church, for instance, the standard was calling first. If we're not in the business of getting in between you and God and the calling. So if you came to me and said, you said, Roger, I have been called. You say, Bishop, I've been called to preach. I said, well, really? Do you really know what that means? And do you know what that entails? And then we can go through a conversation about that, and they can tell me how the Lord found them and what happened and what they went through to get all that. So once I would verify that I felt that their calling was real. This is covering now. See, this is a covering issue. You can argue with whether or not, well, who are you to say that? Well, that's what they came to me because of that. Okay. And so I would then very seldom would I get in, because see, I'm not in the calling business. So I very seldom would say to anybody, well, you're not called. I don't really know. But I would say this. Okay, let's see if we can't climb a couple stairs here. Are you willing to put in the time to develop your ministry? Oh, yes, yes. Okay. Well, okay, then let me ask you a question. Are you willing to go to seminary and get theological training? Well, what does that entail? Well, it entails a rigorous 3-year situation where you would have to study and write papers. And oh, well, some would say yes right away. Some would say, let me think about it. But almost all of them came to the place where they said, well, if this is the standard, if this is your standard, Bishop, then we will work with that standard. So that's how we were able to get, I think, so many people theologically trained, whether, their ministries have gone all different directions. I'm proud of so many of them. Some are in mega churches, some are in minor churches or mini churches, and some have no church. But they all are grateful that I pushed them, if you will, into theological education. Yeah.
This was a little string that I was going for as well. One of the requirements for ordination after examination, you mentioned that, was a theological degree, the call first, then preparation and examination, then graduation, then informed demonstration. What is that?
Well, that's simply, I mean, once you've gone through all that, what come on, what you gonna do? You know, I mean,
Right.
you know, you've done all that. Now you're gonna just sit around and say, I got a degree. You know, let's now start reproducing. We're multipliers, Roger.
Right.
This is what you tried to do. You had a unique perspective on church, but your heart was to multiply disciples, and that's what. So if there's anything in my legacy that's worth talking about, that particular thing, you will very seldom hear of any church, any pastor with that many people who have crossed that particular divide. You know, and that makes me very happy, because that makes me know that I have reproduced myself in other people. I'm not just a marquee guy, not just with a title. I got something done. Yeah.
Well, my friend Tom Benjamin can be found on Facebook. That's his domain that he likes to play in. Dr. Tom Benjamin, the Change Agent. And go find him there and learn more. And his channel is Bishop Tom Benjamin on YouTube. Thank you, sir. We're documenting your legacy, and I'll see you in the next video.
To God be the glory. Peace.
Amen.
Yeah.